Hey guys, it's EagleShadow, and today I'm bringing you a little bit different type of commentary. So rather than commentate a game between two random people that I just happen to see, I'm going to actually commentate one of my own ranked 1v1 matches versus Insomniac311, who is a well-known high-tier player as well. So I think it's really hard. If you've ever tried it, you should try trying to talk to someone while you're playing a high-level match. It's really hard to do both at the same time because it requires so much multitasking to talk and play, and it requires so much multitasking just to play in general. So what I decided to do was just play some games, and then when I found a good one, I would explain to you my thought process as I'm playing the game to maybe help you see how you can improve your own gameplay. So what I actually did there was I dropped some Mortys over here in this top right here in the pregame, and then during when the game started, I brought out my moneymakers and then grabbed some creeps and put them over here, and then by the time I got back here, the Mortys had just walked by, so I could place them there. And so Insomniac is actually doing some Jackal Harass, so I'm just cleaning those up with some Dillos that I pre-built to stop any of that kind of harass. And I actually dropped 2 Dillos at his outpost, but he had tanks in his build queue to stop those as well. So harass is really hard these days with the new outpost defenses and armor and whatnot, so it's really hard to get good harass. So I decided to just go straight for mid. I had queued up 3 Dillos, and then I had a honeypot able to pull out to heal those up along with my Osprey. And then Insomniac actually goes to try and harass my units, but I do bring out a hat, and he is low on health because he is a Hawk, and Hawks have a lot of Airmech downsides, which is partly why I'm playing an Osprey, because you don't really have to land and kill stuff a lot, and Hawk is really bad at doing that. So Insomniac going for some more harass. He actually is not going for mid yet, and I bring out some more Dillos, and he micros his Gemini away and runs away before he dies. I micro my Dillos in the back of that Gemini and then continue on the fight for mid, grab some creeps there just for a second, and move up my units to kill those neutrals. And what Insomniac is actually doing at this time is just building up a mass push of Gemini. So he's probably going to push up those up to mid, if I remember correctly, which he is doing right now with mass commands. And so obviously I'm assuming that since he hasn't started the mid fight yet, but I don't know where he's fighting because I failed to properly scout, so I just assumed he was going to push up towards mid, but then I realized I just microed all of my Dillos away, so I have to quickly pull them back, and I do send those on Y, and so he now has a giant line of Gemini coming toward my base, and I do have a full queue of Dillos because I know he was going to push out soon. So I do pull those out of my base, and I move away some of my moneymakers so they don't all die. And so I'm just trying to build up some defenses, and he is trying to drop there. But he is not microing these units, and he actually has to come back and respond to my pushed units. So it's a really good idea if someone is pushing to just go and drop a unit for harass or push like I did, so that he has to come back and respond so that I can clean up all of these Gemini with my units and he can't micro them around, so I get minimal damage to my base. So Geminis are obviously greater damage than Dillos, so I'm losing a lot of units here, but I'm not taking too much damage because Gemini don't do a lot of damage to the bases, and I am able to clean up all of that push with minimal losses to my defenses and units. However, he is able to push up all of his units to this outpost as well as the mid outpost, so he has almost gained control of that, and he is able to kill all of the units I had there, and I didn't have many there since I pushed them out, and the Gemini that were being pushed killed the rest, so he does need one more creep for there, and then he's able to neutralize that outpost, and I do push up my defenses because I figure I don't really need them anymore. And so those were on Y, and because I was trying to take back that mid outpost, but then I realized that he has taken this outpost. So what I do is I start dropping these units at mid in desperation because I realized I lost them all. So he has been able to take hold of that mid, and I've been able to resecure my forward outpost that he briefly took there. And so he's now making some more defenses and pushing those out on tier Y. I'm not sure. And so now this is sort of like a regular mid-fight because I have taken back this outpost and I have built a tech pod to build some Goliaths and Bursas, but what he is doing is he is dropping Gemini to try and kill my units before I can get a good defense. And unfortunately he does not have any abilities for whatever reason, and I only have level 1 heal. So he is not able to carry 2 Geminis, where I was getting at with that. And he does grab those lockboxes that I was not able to grab. So I'm able to micro my units and kill his tanks, and because he does not micro them around again. And I place out my Bertha and whatnot. And then he does do another base push, and I have pushed out my defenses, if you remember. So I only have a hat and 1 Dillo here, so I move away my moneymakers again, and I never rebuilt the ones I lost there at the initial push. And so he's pushing all of his units, and he's trying to distract me with that Gemini, but I do place a Goliath, and then I realized he could probably drop more units and kill my tech pod, and I don't want that to happen because I want to build more Goliaths. So I bring my tech pod back over here, and then go back to defend my base at the same time. And I have been able to build some Goliaths to stop this push, and but he is microing around slightly. But I do have a hat there, so he almost will go down there, and he actually does go down. And so he is not able to continue microing his units, and I'm able to clean those up. And I do lose quite a bit more health, but I have been able to successfully defend that and keep my moneymakers, of course. But he has been able to once again neutralize his outpost, so he drops some creeps there and moves his tanks around to kill my Goliath. And so what I do is push out my Goliaths that I used to defend because I see that he has taken my forward outpost. So I figure it's a desperation move to just push those on Y. And so I do have 4 tanks there with some more in queue to I push out 1 more and then go back to defend my base because he's doing more drops. And I have left some tanks here as well as that hat and my tech pod to defend, so I'm hoping that he spends too much time. I was hoping that he would push out all of his tanks, which he does, and then spends all that time trying to kill my base, that he doesn't see these 5 Goliaths here cleaning up his mid units and going on towards his base. So this is exactly what happens, and he is pushing out all of his tanks, but once again he doesn't have any ability points for whatever reason. So he does see my Goliath and then brings back the rest of his tanks that are in his queue to defend from those Goliaths. But 5 Gemini does not compare to 5 Goliaths, unfortunately. So, and I'm able to clean up those units with the Goliaths I kept in my build queue and heal them up and kill his Gemini. And I do lose another, I don't know, 5th or so of my base health. And he is coming back to micro after he pushed all of his tanks. I tried to get the kill on him so I could micro my Goliath at his base, but I wasn't able to because I am also in a Hawk, so I do just as little damage as he does, even less because I'm an Osprey. And so my tanks are finally coming here, and I'm coming with another one to micro those around. So what I try to do is put them all on one corner so that it just bursts through all the tanks there, and but I do run out of energy. But that strategy does pretty much work, and so I'm just trying to micro it so he can't easily block those with his tanks. And so I do go down there, though. And so now he is trying to put tanks in front of my tanks because he has almost lost all of his health to these 5 Goliaths. But he does have a good body block of tanks there now. So I do spend some money on respawn there to try and get a drop before he can build a good line of defense to stop the rest of this damage from going down. And so he does only have about 1/10 of his health left, and I do drop 2 Dillos and go down there to get a little bit more health. And so now I actually have the health lead for base health. However, I only have my close outpost and my back outpost here because he owns my forward outpost. And so now what I'm doing is, while I'm dead, I'm buying abilities. So specifically the abilities I buy are carry, because I want to be able to carry 3 Dillos, because I realize 3 Dillos is the best to do drops with. And so I bring out 3 Dillos now that I have level 2 carry, and so I do go try and kill all the units at my fort so I can take it back while I know he's building a wall of tanks because he has very little health left and is very susceptible to drops. So I'm trying to gain back map control rather than do drops, which will do minimal more damage, so that I can eventually build up a good push. And what he actually does push out a bunch of tanks, so I did miss that a little bit while I was taking my outpost. And so what I'm doing is doing a drop to try and distract him, but I do see that he has built a giant wall, and unfortunately I'm not able to get through this wall, and all of my tanks do die because Dillos aren't very good. So I have to run back and to defend before, because I know I don't have too much defense since I pushed a lot of it out. And he actually is able to kill one of my Goliaths, and he is here to micro his units, so I don't do a very good job of placing my Goliath where it needs to be. I kind of just put it there. He does micro all in the corner, but I do have Dillos there to defend it, and I am able to clean those up with all of my Dillos, because in mass, Armadillos are pretty OP, have some pretty OP damage. And so he does find that one hole that I left there, so I quickly block that before he gets too much more damage, and I put my hat. I have lost my tech pod at this point. I lost it a while ago to one of his Gemini pushes, so he is trying to neutralize this outpost again that I took back, so I just bring out Dillos and place them in the back of the tanks, and I do misdrop a Dillo twice there. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to get as much money advantage as possible, because he realizes he is losing map advantage, and he doesn't have that much money. For some reason, all those pushes are very expensive for him, and I'm not doing really any pushing. All I'm doing is defending, and that is a lot more cost effective than pushing out. So what I could have done is rebuilt all my moneymakers, which is always a good idea, but you know, in the heat of battle, when you are constantly being pushed against and harassed in different places, it's really hard to find time to build moneymakers and place them. And so he's going for another drop because he has lost this mid. I've been able to take it back with my 3 Dillos, which was the best decision I made the whole game, was to buy level 3 carry capacity. And for whatever reason, he did not build abilities until almost level 7. And so I don't know why you would do that, because a Helix really thrives on its abilities, especially rockets. And but he didn't, for whatever reason. Maybe he wanted as much economy as possible. But lo and behold, I'm able to take back this mid, and then I place my Dillos behind his tanks to kill them, so I can eventually take this outpost, hopefully. He does use his rockets, but in a Hawk with level 1 rockets, it's not that great against a level 12 mech, no matter what pilot. And so I am able to kill those tanks, and now I'm trying to go on the offensive, so I'm trying to harass his moneymakers. So it's kind of a flip between the early game, except this time I have mid rather than it being neutral. So and with these 3 Dillos, and I am able to do that, and all he has in his queue is 1 Gemini for whatever reason, even though he has 35,000 credits, and he did grab both of those lockboxes, because I did not grab either of them. And but for whatever reason, I still have the economic advantage, because he spent so much money pushing and only did a little more than half of my base health he only got down. So what I'm now trying to do is neutralize this forward outpost. So what I was thinking at the time was that if he's trying to turtle up, I'm going to make it as hard as possible, because he won't be able to build any units if he doesn't have any outposts, and he won't have a large unit cap. So that's what I'm trying to do. And in the meantime, I have been building Goliaths as soon as I get the money. So I do pull those out of my queue so I can build some more Goliaths, and I have been now able to neutralize this outpost. And so I bring some creeps, and he has to walk back, and I have neutralized it, so now his unit cap does go down by 10, so he's now at unit cap, and he can no longer build any more units, which is good for me, since he's using them all to defend his outpost, since I pushed those Goliaths early game that was able to knock down almost all of his health with my micro. So when your opponent is really low on health, is what I'm trying to say, by casting this game, like Insomniac is here, what you really want to do is get as much map control as possible, so that they will not have the economy advantage and you will be able to build as many units as possible because you have a large unit cap, and they will be spending all of their money on their base defenses, and you'll be able to get map control and eventually push if you get a large enough army. And so what he actually does, he realizes that now that he really is low on map control, I could eventually gain all the maps, and it would go into like base damage for him when I have map control and hold it for 30 seconds. So he does push out all of his units from his defense in a desperation push, but I had built such a good line of Goliaths there that nothing was going to get through that except more Goliaths, and unfortunately he did not build a tech pod until right now, when it's a little too late, because he realizes the only thing good for defending against Goliaths is other Goliaths right now in this meta. And even though he has a lot of money, he never had the time to build that tech pod again, and I was able to build that tech pod, gain back map control, because I had the health advantage and he spent all of his money on base defenses, and so I was able to come back from this game even though I had lost my forward outpost and was constantly being harassed and pushed. I was able to grab this victory, ranked 1v1 versus Insomniac311. So I hope you like this kind of commentary. It's a little different, but I really like it because it helps you, help me, show you different types of gameplay that I use and what I'm thinking, what a high level player is thinking while they're playing the game. So interestingly enough, we have almost the same build except Osprey versus Felix, and I was able to grab this 1v1 ranked game. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later.